All right. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
As soon as you started playing the intro video, my phone starts blowing up. I'm like, what the hell is going
That's the way it always goes. Um, so, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Ending the Stigma, where we just talk about the struggles felons face, the issues they face, and they just try to normalize the fact that there are felons out there like Nathan and I and our guest tonight. And, we're here, we made mistakes, and uh, we're not the boogeyman. So, real quick before we get started, I'm going to shout out a sponsor. I had an anonymous sponsor on this one. She did not want to be mentioned, her name to be mentioned, but she helped support the show this week. So I want to thank her very much. And yeah, I think that is it. You got anything you want to add before we bring Ariel out?
Nope. Let's do it.
Nope. Let's do it. All right. We got some people showing up in the chat already. So our guest tonight is she's from Oklahoma City. She works for the Center for Social Innovation there. She's a director, doing all kinds of cool stuff. So I'm just going to bring her out and ask her some questions, and I'm going to let her finish taking her drink of water real quick. And hi, Ariel.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
I was busted on that water.
Yeah, I know it. I was like, I'm gonna wait just a second. Catch her in mid gulp. Hey, everybody! Here, by the way, this is Ariel.
Yeah. Or what if I was just like eating a meatball sub or something? Just like,
oh man,
I mean,
that would be awesome.
What an entrance, though.
Yeah, I know, right? That would have been an entrance because I could do with a meatball sub right now. I'm starving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. At first when you messaged me, I was like, who is this person?
Yeah, right.
I had no idea. But then when
no.
Krista Scamahorn, she gave I was like, okay, he's not she's not trying to sell my, me car insurance or something.
No, not at all. Yeah, and it's always kind of a crapshoot. I think Julie Griffin had recommended you somehow. Maybe Krista had told her about you or something. I don't know. And so I connected with you, and then put your name. Like I connected with you just for the sole purpose to get you on the show. Put your name on my list, and then it sat there for like months before I finally messaged you. And I guess it kind of worked out good because Krista, I was able to name drop Krista.
That's right.
Yeah,
it reeled me in.
Hey, Teresa. You had a Frosty. Yeah, Duck Dynasty. I did that to somebody today. I did the Uncle Si thumbs up, and they were like, what are you doing? I was like, never mind. It's a redneck thing.
Mm-hmm. You get that a lot, I bet.
Yeah. Well, not so much. This was the first time I got a Duck Dynasty comment. It's usually Santa Claus. Yeah, like, I don't know.
That's a stretch.
That is a stretch. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that because my entire family says Santa Claus. So, tell us about Ariel. Tell us a little bit about your story and just kind of, how you made the transition from being on one side of the law and now work for the state of Oklahoma, basically.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, my name's Ariel, and I am 30 years old, and I grew up in Oklahoma. A little bit about my family, not too much, but a little bit, normal situation, as normal as anything could be. We weren't my family wasn't Christians or anything, so we didn't have that component. And so we didn't really have like a compass. All that to say, we didn't have something to point us to, anything or any direction or fill a void or anything. But yeah, my mom was an attorney, career woman, all of that. I had a couple siblings. I was middle. And I had a biological dad that had been previously incarcerated. So when we talk about like generational cycles of incarceration and addiction and all of that, that's real. Because I had never even met him. I never met him once in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he, he was a drug addict and all of that. And when my mom was pregnant with me, they found out he had HIV. And so that was, kind of the final straw with that relationship. And, luckily we were, safe and protected, but that was just the reality of the world that I came into. And I started partying really when I was like 12 or 13, but I was like student council president. I was in cheer, track, volleyball. I was in everything that existed. Acting. I loved being in traveling and doing these fun things. And so I was very involved in things, but you know what? I saw the movie Half Baked, and it really glorifies, marijuana, all that stuff. And I would just watch it over and over.
And you were like, that's what I want to do with my life.
It was like, really looks fun on that movie. Chappelle reeled me in. I'm telling you.
Yeah, couch guy.
Yeah, he's like floats up on the couch. And so, and my biological dad, I was always like stalking him online because it was part of my identity, even though I wasn't allowed to see him or hang out with him. When I felt like I was trying to decide who I was, like every kid does, I was really trying to learn about him because I thought he was the missing link, that this is why I didn't relate to anyone in my family. I looked just like him, yada, yada. And so I'd look him up on the court dockets online in the jail rest, and I'd see pictures of him. And it was always for marijuana charges. So cultivation of marijuana, all these things. And then I'd also just see him like wasting away because he had multiple diseases, but he didn't have money. Nowadays you can live a normal, healthy life with that if you have money. Well, he didn't have money, and he had a combination of other things and addiction. And so anyways, that was kind of my open door. I didn't have any friends that smoked weed. I sought it out. Like I went to school and asked everyone, hey, can you give me some weed? And everyone's like, whoa, oh my God. And so I sought it out, and I smoked it for the first time listening to CNC Music Factory. And, that song, that tech song, what was it? Gonna Make You Sweat. And it's just, I thought I had figured out the solution. I was like, it blew my mind. I couldn't believe, because there's like this whole other dimension that you can kind of escape to. And I was like in love with that. And so that just kicked it off for me. And then the opioid epidemic. I was one of the lucky ones that got injured right when that was, starting off. And, I was a teenager, and I hated my family, like a deep, deep hate. And I decided I was going to run away. And so me and my friend stole a car. We didn't even have anywhere to go. And this was the second time she'd ever driven a car, which is why she got to drive. Because we were like, we don't know how to drive. This is a stolen car, and she had driven once before, and she was 6 months older than me. So she got to drive.
And how old were you at this time?
I was 15.
Okay.
She was 15 and a half. Okay.
Oh, yeah, she was.
So
and she had driven once.
She'd driven one time. And so she was a vet.
You're the getaway driver.
And we were driving through a cow town, Slaughterville, Oklahoma. And there's like 2 roads in that whole town. Cow town, And we came up on a T intersection going 70 miles an hour. And I had a DVD player in my lap playing the movie Scary Movie. I'd never seen it. And I asked her, I was like, hey, what is this movie about? And she looks over at the movie and starts telling me what it's about. And we just smashed through that T intersection, hit a tree, entire front end of the car compacted into where we were. It was, it's 4 a.m. There was no lights. We had no phone. We had nothing. And I broke my arms, my hands, my legs. I broke everything. And she shattered her. Sorry, there's some squeaking, the sprinkler. Okay. My husband told me earlier, I was like, are you going to be making any noises? And he's like, I might turn on the sprinkler. So anyways, I broke everything. She shattered her eye socket on the steering wheel, which made her, I just thought she was dead. She was unresponsive. And so I literally was like, oh my gosh, it was like a save someone's life kind of situation. I was so scared. And I couldn't even open the doors because all my finger, everything was broken. So I just pushed, I finally got my seatbelt out, like poking the clicker on it. And I just wiggled out of the window and dropped on the other side of the car, peed my pants immediately because I just really had, I remember that
Yeah.
detail vividly. And I squatted down, even though I had jeans on. It was this weird thing of like, I don't know. I just remember exactly. Like, and as I was doing it, I was like holding my bones. I was like, that was stupid. That was blood. And so I walked miles and miles with broken everything to someone's house, knocked on the door with the foot that wasn't broken, covered in blood and pee and fear. And this guy answers the door and he's sleepwalking. He goes back to bed. I'm out there for hours. So she gets ambuflighted to the hospital. She survives, which is great. You know, she had to have a lot of metal plates and things like that. And I had intense surgeries and screws and plates and all that. But I was on I got on Percocets for a long time, for like 9 months. And at that time, I didn't know why I was milking it, but I was not, I didn't need them. Like I said, I needed them. And then even when they stopped giving them to me, I would take hers, you know, was having continuous surgeries. And so that really created like a craving in my brain. To this day, when I take Tylenol, there's like this placebo, because there's a lot of Tylenol in narcotic. And so it like makes me feel a certain kind of way. That's how deep that craving, that especially on a growing brain, like my brain was formed around this chemical being here, you know, as high as it goes. And so after that, I was in mental hospitals consistently for suicide. I'd be in and out of rehabs, all of that. And then when I was 18, met my ex-husband, way older than me. You know, he was bipolar and had some drug problems. And so it was just, we spiraled out from there. You know, I'd been arrested a lot as a teenager, going to like juvie and overnight facilities. And then if your parents don't pick you up from those overnight facilities, you go to like a homeless shelter for kids. And so I was getting arrested a lot as a kid, but those charges don't stick. You know? So that was lucky for me. And then I was in my 20s. You know, I eventually got divorced, started hanging out with some gang people because they did drugs. And I started doing hard drugs when I was like 22-ish, maybe 21. Eventually ended up doing just the worst things you could do, I was heroin, meth, all of that. And I got arrested for possession and went to jail and did not unbecome an addict. I know that's really shocking, but when I went to jail, I did not stop wanting to do drugs.
Right.
I racked up jail stay fees and they released me, and I promised that I would do all the stuff they told me to do. And immediately was no way. Had a warrant immediately and owed thousands of dollars that I couldn't pay back, had no car. And eventually ended up homeless, kind of homeless. We were living in a vacant house with no electricity, no running water. And I got pregnant and had my son there, not in the house. I was thinking about it, but because I had warrants, but ended up going to the hospital and taking him home to that. I took him home to that. It was August of 2015, 102 degrees outside, no utilities, you know, and I'm crying. My son, your baby's crying. We're sweating, you know, and I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like I was so deep in the hole.
Right. You were so far down, you had to look up to look down.
Yeah. I mean, in a spiritual way, like I would sit on the front porch of that house at night when it was cool and had this rocker because we were tweakers. So we just had furniture on our front porch, you know, and
because that's what you do.
That's what you do. Like, why? I mean, and not even like burnt, like outside, like a couch. I'm talking about a couch.
Yeah.
Cushions were on that thing.
I had one of those too.
You were in the club.
I was in the club.
It's like you go to Mathis Brothers and you're picking out furniture and they're like, where are you planning on putting this? Like my front porch.
Yeah, right.
Looks like you haven't set up any home kit accessories. My watch is going off. But anyways, I would just sit on the front porch and rock him to sleep and just cry out to God,
Mhm.
for help and for some kind of just everything.
Mhm.
I was at my lowest. And within 6 months, through a winter, like I literally this house had a fireplace and we would steal uh, furniture and other items, fence panels off
Mhm.
people's fences to burn them in the fireplace so
Oh,
that,
wow.
because I had an infant, and
Yeah.
that's just a different vibe. That's a different level when you have that, because then you're instincts and all of that. But I also couldn't stop doing drugs no matter
Yeah.
what, because
Yeah.
it was everyone I knew, and I had that in me. And 6 months after I had my son, the police department came and kicked in that door, arrested me, and they felt so like, they felt really bad. I must say
Yeah.
that, like, because they saw me and saw this house, and like, I really remember like their compassion for me, and
Mhm.
just knowing that that's not what I wanted, and they felt really bad about, because they were asking me to get him dressed, and
Mm.
to get to go, and I was like, like every sock, everything I put on, it was like, and so they were like, oh my gosh, and so we went to the police department, and they didn't want to put him in custody or in child protective, but
Mhm.
I gave them a list. So I gave them a list of people to call. No one would answer. And so he went into the Department of Human Services here, so child welfare, and
Mhm.
foster family. And I went to jail, sleeping on concrete for a while. And
Mhm.
I didn't know what to do. And I ran into a girl in jail who was in a diversion program. So I basically lobbied for this program. I got in. That was May 1st of 2016. And I just did everything they told me to do. And from there, it just escalated. I got a little part-time job. I had some sobriety. My brain started healing. I started, having the support. And within 8 months, I had my own apartment, had my son back, our own little spot, got really plugged into church. And I mean, I'm saying, like, God just gave me these opportunities to get plugged into like a corporate office. I got into human resources. I was denying, I felt, denying people who were applying. And I'm a convicted felon, to this day, I have
Right.
charges, and I'm like in HR. So, but I mean, I was a really hard worker, because that job was changed my life,
That's
and
got
so
to be a weird thing to know you're a felon and you're denying people because they're a felon.
I know. Yeah. And I'm like, just the contrast. There's so many times in my life I've sat in this moment that the contrast between now and then is so great that I just get emotional. Like I'll cry, like God
Mhm.
is so transformative. And every bad thing, like terrible thing that I have done personally, because I wasn't a victim a lot of the times, it's
Right.
things I was
Right.
doing. And just him using all of that uh, to help me be who I am today and get to do what I am today. Like I can't even begin to describe. So
Yeah.
I got this job. I worked really, really hard. I did everything. I didn't do drugs because I was stupid. I did them because I was bored, and
Yeah.
it felt good, and so I mean, I started school for engineering in college when I was like 20. Did not finish, of course. I dropped out when things got bad. But yeah, I got this job. I did everything, and then I had a responsibility to tell my story. Like, how can I help
Mhm.
people and show the world that people who are addicts and justice involved can do more. They can
Mhm.
do more with their life, and they can do more with their life than just rehab, than just get sober. Because it's not really
Mhm.
about that. That's not enough to feel purpose and hope.
Mhm.
And so that was kind of my calling. And I spoke at a lot of events. Like, I mean, I would take off work, drive hours, do everything. I got a diversion program called Remerge in Oklahoma City. And I just did everything for that program. I mean, for years. And I met a lot of people who were philanthropists, and they did grants and funding, and they had these other agencies. So over time, a friend of mine who was, now she's an elected official, but she was over a giant, agency who gave other programs money, and grants and things like that, and helped them have funding. You know, she called me one day and she was like, hey, they gave $1 million to start the program I'm with now, Center for Social Innovation. And she reached out to me. And at first I was like, I'm not going in a nonprofit. I don't want to be poor.
Right.
Because I had that scarcity mindset where it's like, I had a great job. I was in oil and gas. And,
Yeah.
when God's calling you to do something, I had a dream. I had dreams about it. I had just a lot of drawing to it. And so now I'm at Center for Social Innovation, and I'm the senior director there. I started in 2020 in August, and I started the same day my students did. So
Wow.
they were asking me where the bathroom was, and I was like, I have no idea, but let's go from there. There was no like programming already in place. And so although it was like chaos, because the needs, like people needing housing, cars, food, that never stops. But they also that never stops, but I also needed to develop programming. It really developed me very quickly. And I always, in my mind, I'm like, no matter what I'm trying to do, I want to put those relationships first. Because at the end of the day, like love for others, love and support and compassion and empowerment, like those are the things that stay. So what the programming isn't perfect right now, those relationships, that's a staying power. And so that's what I really focused on. And I developed programming, which is like a dream, like even think about you, Chris, if someone said, here's this money, we want to start this program for people who have the same story as you, and you can do whatever you want, essentially in a way. I mean, that's kind of a dream.
Right.
It's cool. And so
It kind of makes you stop and like just you putting that on me, it makes me stop and think like, what in the hell would I do?
Right.
What would all of a sudden you've got a big responsibility. Like you have the means to make something happen. Now, how am I going to make it happen?
Well, I mean, seriously, I'm just curious, what would you do?
I have no idea. Yeah, I know. Like put me on the spot with $1 million real quick. I don't know. Like it's just something I'd have to think about. But I mean, I think I would definitely do like some of the things that you're doing. Just give people the means to, whether it's help them get a car or get a laptop or buy them some, just the little stuff. Because they're in school, right? They're enrolled in college while they're doing this. So they've got a full school load, and they're trying to work and trying to do this. And maybe they can't get a job. Man, I don't know what I'd do. Like it would take some serious thought and prayer, but it would be like I would immediately start trying to take care of little things. What do you need right now? Okay, you need toothpaste. Let's go get you some toothpaste. Like almost panic mode at first, just to kind of get things going, just the little stuff, and then get into the bigger. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just based on my experience of what I see the most people struggle with, I think that I would have to devote as much of that money as possible into helping people with housing and transportation. Like just more than anything else, that's what I see people struggle with, and that's the biggest cause of stress, and that's the biggest reason that I see guys go back. So
yeah, those basic needs. I mean, and that's totally right. And because of our mission, we're trying to give them education, training, professional development, all of that. Really, and it's hard for me because the need, like here's the obvious needs, and so it's been a point of growth for me to try to limit my scope a little bit and stay in my lane and try to find partners for helping with those kinds of things. But the partners don't have those kinds of resources, and so it's a very different. We have a affordable housing crisis in Oklahoma. We have people who have backgrounds who don't have a bunch of money, and I mean, there's not enough housing for people that are middle class that have money.
And I mean, I was going to say, like, the cost of living, I'm in Colorado Springs, and the cost of living here is insane. But even several years ago, when it wasn't quite as bad as it is now, like I had a friend who was on parole with me who was making something asinine, $28, $29 an hour as a heavy equipment operator. And he was living in a shelter because he could not find someone who would rent to him.
Wow.
That's the kind of thing that I'm talking
Yeah.
about. It's like, but
Yeah. You
Yeah.
lived in Colorado Springs. I lived
Yeah.
in Crested Butte for a year.
oh, okay.
And I was like deep in my addiction. So I was like homeless because those houses were like unbelievably expensive. But anyways, I lived there for a while, like in my addiction, and it was like, whew, beautiful out. It was a weird complex of like beautiful outside and nature, and then also like darkness. Someone said, what is the name of the organization? Center for Social Innovation.
Yeah.
So Center for Social Innovation, or CFSI, because it's a lot to say. And it's out of OSU OKC. So it's a college. But just to kind of give you an overview.
And before you say that, I just want to say how amazing it is that a college has a program like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, carry on.
Well, and to be, like it is like the first of its specific kind that does exactly what we do and opens it up to the people that we do. And has the flexibility that we do. And so it is very unique, which is exciting, but it also is like, when I say create, it's not like I don't, normally when you create something, you look at what are the benchmarks? What's my blueprint? What are these other examples? Like there's no other example other than, my testimony and what our workforce needs. I mean, there's things I can definitely look at, but it takes a lot of faith and trust to just move forward and believe it's the right thing. And it's what people need. It is. People need opportunity, especially people that have social barriers. They need opportunities to, just like what I was given. I got that job at an oil and gas company in corporate America, and that environment changed my life. I started working out. I quit smoking. All these lifestyle changes that I made because of that was transformational. And I think everyone deserves that. Everyone deserves an opportunity to, because I'm not special. There's not, there's nothing different about me.
Yeah, there's millions of stories just like yours.
That's right. And so that's what I'm saying. Like people, I just can't stress enough how much we need employers to take a chance, even if it's just one person. So we take men and women, all different ages. We have someone who's 22. We have someone that's 60. And they don't, and the reason, the men and women thing is really important to me because we put a lot of our resource. It's like the Titanic in Oklahoma. It's women and children first for the resources. And that's where they are all kind of, that's where they're all divvied out. Well, what happens is, these women with children graduate their programs and they get with a single guy or single girl and they'll throw it all out the window because it's like cancer. You can't not treat all of it, because we are a community. We are relational beings. We need each other. We're going to gravitate towards each other. And so we really need to spread those resources out just on the front end so we can be healthy and healthy together. So we take both. We take men and women. And it could be any social barrier because, what's to say what is preventative and what is, reactionary. But we need to open it up to people who have been through things, trauma, homelessness, poverty, addiction, incarceration, all of those things. People who have just aged out of foster care. It's open to anyone with a social barrier. And they start with us in August, and it's a 2-semester cohort. And so they're with us from August till May. They're in college classes immediately with a support. It's like being in a sorority or a fraternity. Like that community that you build up is invaluable to to this group, because school is so scary and overwhelming and hard for people who haven't been through things. The dropout rate is like, it's hard. It's very hard. And so this community is everything. It is the glue that makes it work. And they support each other. And we focus a lot on empowerment. And so they have their own club. They have a president, a vice president. They have their own budget. They can go and do projects, and they do their own community engagement projects. They go to like an after school club and bring a birthday party. They do those kinds of things. And they take college classes, a lot of computers. That's a skill that you have to have it. You have to. We have a spinoff of Toastmasters. It's not an official Toastmasters group, but it's kind of framed after, like Toastmasters, public speaking. We do impromptu, we do civil discourse, written speeches, all of that. Because just to learn how to communicate, and it builds up your confidence. Confidence is everything, and not an unhealthy confidence, but a humble confidence that can get you really, really far in life. That says, when you can get to a place that says, I am sorry for what I've done, but I want more out of life, and I believe I deserve that. Like, that's a really good place to be whenever it comes, whenever it's part of who you are. And so we want to get people to that place, and they do a lot of trainings that can help them, like crucial conversations, which is what Krista Scamahorn brought to us. We do Dare to Lead, Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, all of these things that are transformative in our culture at all. We give them, in this group, this demographic, because they don't have a lot of money, they don't get those kinds of trainings, those higher level trainings, but it's transformative. The impact on them is exponential. And then we pay them to be in the program, which is crazy. We pay them $10 an hour just to go to school. Could you imagine if someone was like, we'll pay for your school, we'll buy you a brand new laptop, we'll buy your lunch every day, and we'll pay you hourly to be there? And that's not just like a handout. That's because people who, have a family to support or whatever, they can't just be gone all day. We have to work. We have to be able to survive. And so how can we take away those barriers so they can make it and focus on it? And a lot of them have part-time jobs, like on the, at nights or on the weekends, just because, it's not enough money to completely be, self-sustaining, especially if you're not on some sort of housing. But we plug them in with resources, help them get cars. Everyone in our cohort has a car as of now. Just things like that. And then focus a lot on building this community for them so they can have it forever.
That support is huge. I say all the time, you got to change your people, places, and things. And when you get out, if all you know is this sort of people, so you try to distance yourself from them. And even your family could be a bad situation too. Like if you don't have anybody to support you because you spent your past years hanging out with knuckleheads, then not having that support can be detrimental. So being able to find a community like that where everybody's supporting each other, just that aspect of it alone has got to be huge.
Oh yeah. Well, and we were talking about this before, Chris. When people go to college, it changes your brain. It literally reroutes neural pathways. And so people who have damaged their brains, people that have not had those experiences of higher learning, it is extremely impactful for them. And kind of like what you were saying in prison, that you would watch these guys start taking college classes and completely be different. And they're not even in a college campus. It's just
but they take a year or two of college, and all of a sudden, and like with Toastmasters too, we've talked about this a bunch because Nathan you weren't in Toastmasters inside, were you, Nathan?
No, not inside, only since I've actually only been a part of my club for about a year.
Yeah, like you could always tell the guys that had been to college and been to Toastmasters because they thought a little bit different, they spoke different, the way they processed things was a little different. And even if they don't ever do anything with that degree, it helped, like you said, reframe and rewire their thought processes.
That's exactly. I mean, and we want them to have certain proficiencies. So say someone decides to be a trainer or something that doesn't need a degree. We want their reading and writing to be at a certain point. We want their speech to be at a certain point. And so we want some proficiencies, if anything, towards the end. And we get them a lot of like non-credit certifications, like project management, things like that are useful immediatally, because it's all a stair-stepping, pattern where how can we have these small wins that mean something. And also we're very individualized. So a lot of programs are, and I did like a Six Sigma project with the program where we kind of did our data collection, all of these kind of framework. And what I came to find was because we're so individualized, we measure a lot of things based on individual development, as opposed to like, okay, all 31 people need to have this, this, and this. Well, everyone in our cohort wants to do something different: graphic design, accounting, project management, business admin, life coach, these kinds of things, IT support. Those are so different. And the skills that you need to develop in order to be really great at those things are very different outside of our 21st century skills that we were just talking about, communication, things like confidence. Those things are across the board, but it takes relationship, and that's why leadership is very important. Who's leading the program? I just had a new staff member that we waited a year to find her. Her name's Latina. And she was an answer to prayers, and she's the right fit for them to have a relationship that they can trust, that they can ask questions to. Like, that is really, really important, that they feel valued and heard and encouraged, because you really have to, people want to give up, so sometimes you're a success coach, sometimes you're kind of like a mother, sometimes you're a mentor, sometimes you're a friend. And so it's really just walking alongside people and helping them grow and pushing them when they're down, when they're feeling like they can't do it, and figuring out what's the right path for this one person is very time consuming. It's very time consuming. But like a success story, we have a student who he had a couple charges on his record, and he always had like an interest in like IT and 3D printing, things like that, those kinds of tech things. But the only jobs that paid okay were like construction, manufacturing, things like that, which isn't just that's not how his brain works. That's not what he's excited about. That's not what his natural, abilities are. But it was an okay wage that would hire him with his charges. So we took him, we did all these assessments, and now he's in IT support at an oil and gas company,
Wow.
And it takes a lot of development and encouragement and healing people's like lack of confidence. Like, people just don't feel good about themselves, and how you build that up, give them opportunities to see more, because a lot of times they have no idea what they want to do or what's out there. When you're sitting there worried about, being alive, you're not sitting there going, oh, what do I want to do in 5 years? What are my goals? It's more like, okay, a light bill in a week. Me and so are fighting, and so we're shifting mindsets. And as far as I was thinking about your ending the stigma and all of that, I think we say a lot to employers and to our community that we want to break stereotypes and that we want them to take a chance on our people and all of that. But I think that we really need to do the work as a community. That we're not just like, hey, be a second chance employer. Okay, well, give me some people who need a second chance that wouldn't be a liability to my company. Give them some development, give them some training, give them all these things that even all my employees need. And so things like that. And that's the gap that's missing. Is I think there are some compassionate hearts, and we have more than enough skill and ability in our social barriered community. We have that, ability in there, the potential is there. But what's the accelerator between that and here? And it's all about those opportunities, giving them internships, all of that. And I think as we do that, the stigma is going to, end itself, because all of a sudden their peer is, someone that has a felony or something like that. They're in corporate America, or they're in, training or something else, some kind of new industry that they're interested in. And so that's what we're doing. And that's our hope for, our vision is that people can really do anything they want to do, and that they have an opportunity to get there with some help. So,
How long has it been since you got out and started getting your head right?
2016, so 6 years.
Just 6 years.
It's quick. It was quick.
Yeah.
Very quick.
You've accomplished a lot in 6 years.
And I think about that because it is so dramatic. as far as like where I was and where I am. And I think I truly believe that like God accelerated my process so that I could go back to the others, so that I could open a door for them, because it felt like there were times that I knew how to do things that I had never done. It just felt like it was beyond me, you know, and I truly believe that that's the reason why. I don't think that that's the typical story. I think a lot of it had to do with the opportunities I was given, you know, and so I think it's possible for people once those doors are open. But that's my call. I mean, that's what I want to do, is I want to give other people this opportunity and whatever opportunity that they want. To go back for the others. I always say that. I want to go back for the others.
Yeah, that's exactly what Hank was talking about last week, Chris's son.
He's so great.
Oh, dude, that he had me fired up last week, man. Like, he was just so excited and so just like focused. You know, he said, I know I want to help. I know I want to go back and tell my story. But I got to make sure I stay right.
Right.
You know, he just kept saying that over and over. And like Nathan told him, he said, you know, that's kind of our responsibility, is when we're out and doing good, it is our responsibility to go back, whether it's into prison or whether it's to even to speak it to the people in your group, or whatever it is, however it's telling your story, however it's to show that you can be successful. You can do this. You can, or you don't have to be stuck working a dead end job making $10 an hour.
And I think
on,
that's,
you know,
that's super important for the people coming behind us, is, you know, they need to be able to look at someone who's doing it. Right. I know far too many people who, you know, they do basic labor for construction, or they work graveyards at a 7-Eleven, or they do whatever minimum wage job, and they keep telling themselves, this is all that's open to me. This is the only person that's going to hire me. This is all I have. And I think that all of those people need the examples of, you know, what you're doing in Oklahoma, what Chris is doing, you know, what I work for a Fortune 50 company, you know, it's, the opportunities are out there if you bust your ass for it. You've just got to, you know, first of all, you need to know that it's possible. And second of all, you need to work for it.
Yep. You need to work for it, is right. So, you know, it's not a perfect science. And, you know, you can take 100 people who have never been through anything, and a lot of them they're not going to want it bad enough. They're not going to, you know what I mean? That's just human nature. There's going to be some duds out there, you know? So don't judge us all because of the duds. You know, they're there. We know. But there's duds out there for normal people.
Yeah, and we say that all the time. Like, we're not saying everybody coming out of prison is going to act right. Like, we know there's going to be some people that stay knuckleheads, but the ones that do, man, they want it. And all they need is somebody to throw them a rope, you know?
That's it.
Yep. You said it.
Cool. So I'm assuming no, since it's a division of the college, but are y'all a nonprofit?
We, so
the college a nonprofit?
The college has a nonprofit, the OSU Foundation, and that's where our funding is kind of funneled through in a way. So we're a grant program at the college. And so the OSU Foundation is the 501c3 that we operate under.
So I shouted him out last time he showed up too, but this is Darren Wallace. He is a retired warden from the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, and he now works as the director of operations for Cornbread Hustle in Dallas, which is a second chance.
Okay, I know. I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I just thought it was so cool. I'm going to get him on the show soon. I need to shoot him a DM, but I think it would be really cool to have a warden's perspective, somebody that spent like almost 30 years working for the criminal justice system, and now he's out helping people that have been in prison. Yeah. Like, that's not something, I mean, maybe I'm a little jaded because I spent some time, but that's not something you see.
Right.
You don't see that. You know what I mean? I think it's just like the coolest thing.
Well, people get burnt, I think, and I know this even being in nonprofit or the field that I'm in. I mean, hurt people. Broken people are
Yeah.
very hard
Yeah.
to work with and for day in and day out.
Mm-hmm.
When broken people are your customers, essentially, like those are the people you serve.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, you have to really have a renewal process in your life to keep your heart good and pure, and
Mm-hmm.
not, that's something I pray about all the time. Like, God, don't allow me to harden my heart because of things that happen, or people that, hurt me in this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's really, you've got to really have a strong foundation, um, renewal process to not be. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I say that even with like people who are police, or like the wardens, or even teachers sometimes, because
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's hard. And so,
Yeah. 100%. Yep. It's you have a tendency to really want to get bitter, or the tendency is there. It's easy to get bitter about it, um, if you don't watch it, for sure.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you want to tell us about what y'all are doing? You covered a lot. Like that, it's just amazing. It's amazing that it's not just felons. It's cool that felons are involved, but it's amazing that it's anybody with social barriers. So just kind of break it down to us a little bit more. Excuse me, what a social barrier is.
A social barrier is am I breaking up at all?
Mm-mm.
Good. A social barrier is anything that makes normal processes in life harder for you. So things like a disability or a trauma, or anything that's a disadvantage, that, anything that would disadvantage you from being successful, either in employment, education, family, and economically, things like that. And so it's a pretty broad um, term, which I really, really like, because I just
Mm-hmm.
think it's the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
because there's children that have parents who are addicts that need just as much help as
Mm-hmm.
addicts do. And I am so sad that I hear stories about, single women with 3 kids who never got the services that I got because they didn't do anything as bad as I did. And that's not fair. Anyone who needs help needs help. And so, but I
Mm-hmm.
understand that, we've got to limit the scope a little bit, and, give those resources wisely. However, I think with discernment and vetting, and compassion and individualization, that it can be done. We just
Mm-hmm.
have to try, and we have to have the right people trying
Mm-hmm.
to do it. But I would say, we're growing. The hope is that, that we replicate, and that it goes other places, and it becomes, because it's bigger than us. It's bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I care about. I care about that people everywhere get the opportunities that I was given. And if I get to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of it, that's great. Um, and so that's the hope, is that we can do this everywhere. I've had some other colleges be interested. And so that's we're just working on building the foundation now, and getting everything kind of streamlined and decided as we continuously grow. Anything innovative changes, every year. And
Yeah, and y'all are kind of like you said you're the first one that's ever done anything like this, so y'all are going to be setting the stage and setting the bar for the other colleges and universities that want to do this.
yeah, for sure. And trust me, it's gonna be way nicer with that done, because I can tell, I can say exactly, like, because higher ed is its own animal. And even when
Mm-hmm.
someone is like, just people that I work with, that have PhDs and things like that, they'll laugh when I say that, because they are like, oh yeah, it is on any level. It's its own animal. It's its own world. And so to bring in nonprofit, is, our missions are different. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's very specific, and but also needed. We're an open enrollment campus at OSU OKC, and so they don't background check you, and we we serve a lot of individuals who have barriers already. That's just who our campus is, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
what's needed, because it's the other things that make people unsuccessful. the housing and like what you're saying, Nathan, those other issues that make people unsuccessful. And so I think it's what's needed. And then if anyone wants to know more, we have a website. There's like pictures on there. There's, we have a little video, and we have a Facebook page. So Center for
Is that
Social.
it? That's it. Yeah. Somebody, Darius Siri, I hope I said your name right. He dropped it in the comments.
Oh, he did it. Yeah. There we are.
Oh, you know him?
Oh, do I know him? So
Okay.
so he's one of the founders of CFSI. Like, he was there in the beginning. He was on my interview panel. So Brad Williams, who's he's the president of El Centro in Dallas, and he was the president of OSU OKC that hired me.
Okay.
And Dar is the VP of Student Experience, and they were, they're close friends, and so they were on my interview. They just knew I was the one immediately. These people were essential in the dreaming and the innovative thinking and the like, okay, let's help these people. And because Dar was like, he built some hotel brands. And so coming from like that kind of brain on what we were doing was like, it was, because I've been in 14 institutions in my life, 14 different ones.
Oh, wow.
And there is nothing as client driven as we are that I've ever experienced. Even ones that were really, really impactful for me, didn't focus on those kinds of things. Yeah. He's the brain. He's like such a brain, and we can dream and create and serve people and love them well. Challenges arise, and it's just a really great team because the love is there. We love our students. We love what we're doing. We love the hope and purpose that it gives people, because those things are contagious. They're good for everyone.
Yeah.
And those are the things that, that last, and that this is really about are, hope and purpose and community and those things that our students, they didn't have before, and they would never have the opportunity to get that kind of caring for no reason and support. And so
for no reason other than just they deserve it because they're human. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Lyndon had a question, and I don't know that I understand it. How do people reconcile with their sentences? What do you mean by that, Lynn?
Maybe like, how do they succeed even if they have like felonies and stuff like that?
Maybe so.
Let's see if she says anything, but I think that's probably because that could come from two perspectives, right? How do they heal and not feel shame about their backgrounds? That could be one facet of that. Or what I'm thinking is, how do they become an accountant if they have an assault and battery, on their record? Yeah. And that piece takes strategic, planning and just thoughts and actions on our part, building relationships with community partners and employers. So, and a lot of times it's private employers. So people who don't have federal contracts that prevent them from hiring XYZ charges. And so we look for a lot of privately kind of held companies to partner with. And there are some things that people can't do, like that, you can't go into this field, but like Integris here in Oklahoma, they have some second chance nurses, and so we're getting there. We just try to steer people correctly. And I literally just had a conversation probably 3 days ago. Me and Latina, my team member, had one with a past student who wants to be a police officer, but she's got assaulting a police officer on her record amongst tons of other charges. And so it's kind of like, why, really getting down into why do you want to do that? And how do we allow you to do that and serve in the way you want in other ways? Because we got to think too, when we come into this world, the CFSI world that I call it, when we start new, it's like we're kids again. It's like when you ask an 8-year-old what they want to do, fireman, police officer, doctor, astronaut, like that's all we know. And we open up the options. We look at workforce trends. We look at all of those things, the degree options, because 9 times out of 10, even though that's what you have in your mind, it's really about protecting other people. Maybe you want to make within this salary range, and so we look at what are those driving factors for you personally, and how can we get you there? And it may be in a way different than what you thought, but that's never been an issue. We've never given other options to someone that were close to what they wanted to do, and them not be like, oh, absolutely, because sometimes it's better than what you thought it was going to be anyways. It's just, you just don't know what you don't know, and if you don't have parents and friends,
amazing.
Who's going to show you? Yeah.
Because you get I can get one track minded, so I might get stuck on the idea, which I was a cop and I don't want to go back to being a cop, but I might get stuck on the idea I want to be a cop because I want to help people in this situation. And that's the only way I can do it. That's the only way I can see how. So to have somebody redirect that passion, not squash it and say, no, you can't do that, but dig down and then redirect it into something is amazing, because you're not telling them no.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, do you remember, it must have been almost a year ago, it was forever ago, when I had that post asking people, when you were a kid, did you see yourself doing something along the lines of what you're doing now? Or did you even know that career path existed? Because I can tell you that the career path that I'm on right now, I'm in workforce planning and analytics. So when I got my first job,
what?
Yeah.
No, that's a great example, by the way. Workforce management.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, that was just in the workforce management. I didn't even know what it was. Like, I had been working in workforce management for almost a year before I started to kind of figure out what it was that I was doing. So, like, people don't know what's out there. Like you said, it is very one-minded: cop, fireman, astronaut, accountant, or, how many times have you heard a child say, I want to be a businessman? What does that even mean?
Right.
Yeah.
There's just a whole world of opportunities out there that even grown adults don't know the half of. So, I mean, being able to open those doors and that mindset to people is incredible.
Yeah, because if you're living that lifestyle, you're not around normal. I use that normal society. All you know is the drugs and the partying and the whatever else comes with it. So there's like, your bubble is so small. It's like
even then, even if you have lofty ideas, okay, say you talk to someone and they say, I want to be a CEO. Okay, how do you get there? Because you're not just going to apply to be a CEO and get the job.
Right.
So how do you get there? What's your first step? What is the career path that gets you there? And having that kind of focus is, just as important as having the larger goal too.
Yeah.
We get a lot of that. I want to own my own business. I want to be the CEO. I wouldn't say a lot, but shockingly more than what I ever thought I would hear. We get that. And so it's really looking at motives, what are you wanting to do? And then honestly, that's, the pathway there is comprised of a lot of steps. And some of that's just like, it's like a heart check. When someone tells me they want to be a CEO, I'm like, those people don't need to be CEOs. The people that the one who wants to be the boss should not be the boss. And that's just, most people aren't going to say that, but I will. I will, because they can trust me and they know I love them, and that I'm only going to have the best for them. But I'm also going to really challenge them. I'm going to challenge them to be like, who are you becoming? It's less about that title and more about who you are becoming as a parent, as a spouse, or community member. Those are the things. So those are the things that are going to keep you going and keep all of us alive. And so it's just, some of that's just keeping people accountable to what's the right thing too. But then giving them, people who become trainers, for example, they don't necessarily set out to do that. They become very good at what they do, and they become experts over a subject. That's how that happens, And so those are the kinds of things that we kind of teach them the truth about. Oh, you want to own a business? Why? What kind of business? Here's, some, and then that's a real thing. A lot of people are doing that nowadays. They're kind of starting their own little thing, but also thinking, okay, well, say you don't make that much money at first. Like, what kind of foundation can we give you? How much do you need to make? What kind of work can we have you doing first so that you can get this certification, get this degree? Because if people don't have those like tangible, workable steps right now, they're going to give up on the dream. They're going to give up on what they want to do, or really fall into something. They're going to fall into something and never get out of it and never be happy, and then start using drugs again. Or we want people's kids to look up to their parent. And that's like my son to this, he knows that we were homeless because I've showed him like a picture. I've showed him my mugshot before, and he'll bring it up sometimes. He's like, Mommy, remember when your hair was like broken and you were really sad because you lost me? I was like, yeah. He's like, I'm so glad, we're together. And he has a heart for homeless people and all of that. But at the end of the day, like the things that the person I become and all of that, that's his story too. And so we want to inspire people's kids to break those generational cycles. But, if they know that you beat addiction, but you work part-time somewhere and you hate your job and all of that, like, is that really an inspiration to them? Be an inspiration for yourself so you can be an inspiration to them. And I know it's not that easy. And so it's encouragement. It's short goals to help them get there, things like that. And just honesty, being honest with people and loving them.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you need to put yourself in those kind of, I don't want to say shitty situations, but in your less than ideal situation, just as that stepping stone. Like when I first got out of prison, my first job was working graveyards at 7-Eleven. I came out of prison with a bachelor's degree and all of this stuff and these lofty goals. And my first job was working graveyards at a 7-Eleven. And I hated every damn minute of it.
I'm like, oh.
But I did that for 3 months. And while I'm constantly applying to other jobs, and finally I got a new job that sucked a little bit less. And then I got promoted in that job into the career field that I'm in now. And sometimes it's just taking whatever little opportunity that you have and making the most of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. If I could just have that snippet of you saying that, that way I could give another spin on it. But it's like, sometimes you got to do the shit work,
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
That's anyone ever.
Like,
and
if I would have come out of prison trying to get the job that I have now, I would have beaten myself into going back because it never would have happened. I had to take a progression of steps to get where I am. It doesn't just fall in your lap like that.
Yep. That's a great, that's the things that we tell them is like, what do you want to do? How bad do you want it? How hard are you willing to work? And how much are you willing to change? There's some things about us that people don't want to change or whatever. Well, the reason that my story is what it is because of how different I am. But if I still had some of those characteristics, if I didn't, do these things, would it be that great of a story? Would it be that much of a success? It's like, you've got to really be willing to change and really do the work. And this is the thing though, is that our student in mine in the beginning, the confidence level is so low that when you come against a barrier, you're much more likely to just give up. And so without mentorship, without the support that we give them, they would just give up because you just haven't had the wins in life to make you feel confident and have the resilience to push through when things get hard. And so, and I know that, in our team, like Dar, Latina, we know that, they're going to want to give up and because they don't have the confidence. But when they start having these wins, this year has been heartbreaking. We've lost, one of our students died, we've had relapses, people go to treatment, suicide, this year, especially in the middle of COVID, on the mental health and addiction community. So on one day in the future, I'm going to laugh at the fact that we started what we did in August of 2020 and still have the opportunity and still, but that's the thing. We have been through it these last couple semesters, but we've been through it together, and push people through. And now their confidence is different. You can just see it. And so they're much more likely to keep trying and put in the workplaces whenever it's needed. But yeah, that's a huge deal. And I'm glad that we even started talking about that. Like, you've got to do the crappy work to get to the good work. And even like the students see my job, I'm like, you guys see the part of my job that's fun. You see the like 5 or 10% of my job. Like the rest of it is not fun. And so when they come to me and talk about, oh, I want to quit my job because I don't like this lady, and I'm like, it doesn't work. It's the lesser of the evils. It's the lesser of like, what are you willing to put up with?
That's Latina right there. That's Latina on the right here where it says LinkedIn user in the comment.
Maybe.
No, it is. I'm looking at it on LinkedIn.
Oh,
so there's a setting on LinkedIn that when it transfers to Restream, it doesn't show their name if they have that setting clicked. But I see her over here. It's Latina I, Program Manager at Center for Social Innovation.
Oh, okay. She is like a literal answer to prayers. I was so like pulling my hair out because it's so important to have the right people, And I'm also so desperate that I'm like, oh, anyone. But I just prayed in November. I literally wrote down a list of like, because it was a magic. Sometimes you have these magic wand moments with God, because then you really push the limit. Like, okay, let me be audacious. Let me ask for anything, and I will shit you not. He will come through. And I just wrote down things that didn't even make sense, that were so specific. And when and she is all of that. And so God, when he calls you to do something, even if it takes longer than normal, like he's going to come through. And that's what it felt like when she came on our team a couple of weeks ago. It's just like, it reaffirmed me, especially because there were some hard things around then. It reaffirmed me that God was with us and that he was going to, bring things to this that I never could, or that I would never even have thought of, or things like that. And, and it took some pressure. I don't have to like have it all figured out or do it by myself, and even though of course Dar was there and that's great, but to have someone that can be with the students day in and day out, like she can, is like, it was exactly what we needed. And so I'm so grateful for that. I can't stress enough how important your team is in nonprofit when you're working with broken people. Like it is, we're not just like creating like a notebook or something. We're not doing something that takes just skill, really. It's like, it is so important to have the right people that really truly love people and are willing to give all of themselves and care about it because of the mission and less about the position. So
and Darren brought that up a minute ago. Defining yourself by the title ends poorly for the ones you're responsible for. Be less worried about the position.
Yeah,
100%.
And I see that in some programs, and I just am like, ugh, it makes me not. And I can sense it immediately because when you get in that world and you meet a lot. But I used to live in La La Land because I did not come from that world. I came as a participant. I came as someone that received services, and so I just thought everything was magical. And then I got onto the other side of it, and I'm like, oh, there's some people that look at this like, it's a competition or something like that.
Yeah.
Man, so it's learning how to navigate and be who you are no matter what, and not sacrifice any of those things. So yeah, it's really cool, and we're just creating it, and I don't know. You should come check it out.
I should. Once I'm off parole and can leave the state. Dar said, ask about purpose and hope.
What? That's like kind of our tagline. Is that what he means?
I don't know. He said, ask her about purpose and hope. Sorry.
We kind of talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Purpose and hope. That's like our thing. That's the most important things that we try to give people: purpose and hope. But back to the charges. I remember I wanted to go on a mission trip when I, like a couple of years into my kind of recovery.
Mhm.
But I think, I mean, I was still on probation. And anyways, I was like, am I going to be able to get a passport and go out of the state or out of the country even? I went to Haiti and I was able to. So I was like, okay. And I mean, I just learned so many things. Like people can vote once you're off paper. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of, opportunities, but just stuff like that changed my perspective. People cared about me, empowered me to do things. And like
In
going to
Colorado,
Haiti.
I can vote on parole.
Do what?
In Colorado, I can vote on parole.
What? Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
That's
as long
crazy.
as you're not incarcerated. Yeah. I voted.
Wow, no matter what your charges?
Yeah.
Wow.
Just as long as you're not incarcerated, you're able to vote in Colorado. Yeah.
Are you telling me that they have human rights? Is that what you're saying, Nathan?
That's probably the only
not,
one.
I would not leap to asinine conclusions, but we do have the ability to vote while on parole.
Okay. It's like, whoa, magic.
I know, right? He told me that, and I was like, what?
Whoa, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. But I've always thought, even whenever I was playing for the right side of the law, that it was the dumbest thing in the world for felons not, because used to you couldn't vote at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then some new laws came into effect and all that. I always thought it was the dumbest thing because it affects the law. What's going on in the capitals affects them too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I should point out that is relatively new in the state of Colorado because when I was released in 2016 and I was not able to vote in that election, but last year I was. So I think it came about in like 2019 or 2020. Okay. But it's relatively new here.
Yeah, I mean, of course I'm for that. I can also see how people's apprehension, like, people that are criminals, if they can't make basic decisions, should they be able to control the...
Show me one functioning adult who can.
That's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, especially with all like political stuff. I'm just like, oh wait, these are normal people. These are normal people doing and saying and acting these ways. I'm just like, this is way. I mean, I was like to myself in a house somewhere. No one even saw me. I was over. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. And people are impaired all the time on pharmaceutical. Like if it's a drug thing, I mean, ask pharma. Everyone's on drugs. Everyone's
right. Everyone.
So yeah, I'm for it. But I think it takes some progressive thinking to get to that point of being for it.
Definitely.
So. Yeah.
Well, we have gone over an hour, which is fine because it was a good conversation. But Ariel, thank you. It's Ariel. Sorry, Ariel. Thank you so much for. See, I can tell Ariel that too. I don't have another friend named Ariel. I have another friend named Ariel.
You do?
Well, to me,
yeah, she
Ariel number 2.
And
I got off of the feed twice, and
no, because my post,
there's another Ariel.
Yeah, there's another Ariel we're friends with, and she commented on my post today, jokingly. Well, I don't know how I feel about you having another friend named Ariel.
I was first. Yeah. They're saying like, oh, I knew you first. Fine. You know what? Other Ariel, OA. I'll be second. I'll be A2. You could be A1. Steak sauce. We'll just call you steak sauce. I'm out there with it. I'm like, okay, what's steak sauce doing? If steak sauce, if you're on here, drop a line.
I'm definitely going to tell her about that tomorrow. That's going to be funny.
Just tell her she needs to watch.
You need to watch. At least if you don't do anything else, watch the last 3 minutes. Like you'll get
2 words. Steak sauce.
Steak
Get back
sauce.
to me after you watch them. Get back, and that's all you need to tell her. It's like, here's this. It has to do with you. Okay. And then
she probably is, Julie. Definitely. Let's see. Who do I have? Monday, I have Aaron Mangum. He has a special needs kid named Hank, and he has started a network of people, an organization called Hank's Friends, where it's just a network of all kinds of people, everything from restaurants to stores to service providers, recreational places, all kinds of stuff that are people with special need kids friendly.
Wow.
So like, people they can refer, like say like you're in Dallas and you need a plumber, sometimes the plumber may be a little freaked out if he walks in and the kids throwing a wall-eyed fit on the floor because you know what I mean, on the low functioning side or whatever. So he's building a network of people that are special need kid friendly, and there's so much more to it. He explained it to me, but he's doing a lot with it. So he'll be on the show on So I Did a Thing Monday.
Awesome.
Yep. Tuesday at 7 p.m. Julie Griffin is going live for her very first, the premiere of Joyful Julie Live.
Okay. There we go.
Yep.
Is that on LinkedIn or Restream? How do
It
we?
will be on LinkedIn. Yeah. It'll
Are
be
you
on
gonna post
LinkedIn.
it?
She will post it.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be on her page. Yep.
Yeah.
I'll be producing it, but it'll be on her page.
And going back to what you were saying about like that Hank, the program,
Mhm.
I think it's so interesting how sometimes we think certain groups have all the resources in the world because we just love them. You're like people that have like disabilities, like they deserve the most of the most. Like I mean, to me, it's like they're top tier, most of the most, like all that. And so sometimes we just assume that people are taken care of or that there's no gaps in needs or services. And so, I've run across so many programs where I'm just like, man, I didn't know there was a need there or there was
Yeah.
lack. And so I think it's really cool, these programs that people come out with, and like, you'd be surprised, not everyone's taken care of. And there's things out there that people are doing that are so creative and so needed. And it's just beautiful. But anyways.
Yeah. Well, think about too. Yeah, no, but think about too, like you want to go out to eat with your wife or you with a husband or whatever, with your wife and your kid's special needs, but you don't want to take him because you don't know what's going to happen. Well, if you know of restaurants that are like, bring the kid, we don't care, more power to you, then think of how much of a boost that is to just be able to take your family out to eat and not have to worry about if your kid has a meltdown. And I don't mean that in any kind of way, that's just the way it happens sometimes, So yeah, it's great stuff.
Yep.
All right, guys. Ariel, thank you so much for coming on. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
It was a blast. Yes, ma'am. And we will see y'all next week.